Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Live from the North Jersey studios. It is a marvelous March 29th, 2017. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 40th. That's right, 40. Can you believe it? Episode 40 of TNC, of the Nico Chronicles, here live from the North Jersey studios. As always, I am your host, the one, the only, Nico Saraceno. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's 40 is a big number. As I think I briefly mentioned it last show, but I officially started the podcast mid-April. Mid-April I started TNC of last year, so mid-April 2016. And it's been pretty exciting. I've had the privilege of having a whole bunch of awesome guests whom I love very much, so thank you guys for making the show what it is. And it's just crazy to think that I've been on 40 weeks. You know, no doubt I've taken some breaks in between. Not gonna lie. But yeah, I mean, on and off, I've been on 40 weeks, which I'm pretty proud of. So thank you guys for tuning in. A beautiful spring day here, and I'm going to be joined by Maggie Gray shortly, who hosts SI Now on SI.com. She also is a co-host on the Moose and Maggie show on CBS Sports Radio. And she's just an awesome person. I've known her, I mean, I guess technically since I started at CBS Sports Radio in October of 2016, so that makes it about 5 months. So that'll be great. So we have plenty to talk about with her. But if you guys want to listen in, facebook.com/The Nico Chronicles is where you can catch it on Facebook Live. You can also call 701-801-2251 to listen via phone. And a lot of interesting things happened over these past few days. We now have the Final Four. It's going to be South Carolina versus Gonzaga, followed by Oregon versus the Tar Heels. So, two very good, intriguing matchups in the NCAA men's tournament. Crazy to think that just a few weeks ago we started with 64 teams, and now we're down to 4. Of course, not without drama. Of course, Luke May hit that shot for UNC against the University of Kentucky with 0.3 seconds. That was a big shot. And then you know what was good about that? Is it kind of like a feel-good thing. Then Bleacher Report, I think, wrote something about it. The next day, that was on Sunday. That game was last Sunday, so that makes it the 26th. Next day, 27th, Monday morning, goes to an 8 a.m. class, and he gets like a little round of applause and everything like that. It was good to see. He's like a local hero over there. So pretty good stuff there. Shout out to my mom who just tuned in here. And this is a kind of an abnormal schedule for people who do follow TNC and my dad. Normally, as you guys know, we're on Thursday evenings, 9 p.m. Today's a Wednesday night, 8:20. It's like the Sunday Night Football kickoff. We're on 8:20, which is a bit of a random time, but I was vibing to that for some interesting reason. But Maggie Gray set to join us at around 8:30 p.m. And that's been the main focus in the sports world. A lot of focus on that. Final Four going to be taking place in Phoenix, of course. What else is going on? Lance Stevenson, the former Pacer, is back with Indiana. Reportedly, he signed and agreed to a 3-year, $12 million deal to return to the Pacers, which is just in time for the playoff push. They're currently in 7th place in the East. So that'll be interesting to see. That'll be interesting to see what happens with that and if it really can impact them, because they'd be facing the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round of the playoffs. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, he was always a pest, especially against LeBron, if you remember correctly. The whole blowing in the ear thing, I believe that was against the Miami Heat. when LeBron was on the Heat, obviously. So we'll see what happens with that. And also, what I've seen complaints also on Facebook in the social media realm. Facebook, since yesterday, began rolling out these Facebook stories, which for those of you who have Snapchat or Instagram, it's very similar to that. Very similar to the Snapchat and Instagram stories. A lot of people are already complaining. I haven't gotten it personally. I know they haven't really rolled out the new feature to everybody just yet. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to go ahead and comment on that once I get word of it, because I'm just curious to see what it's like. I probably, like a lot of people, am not going to take the time to watch people's updates. Because, I mean, honestly, this is what the other platforms are for. Like, Snapchat is like a quick image sharing app. Along with Instagram, they kind of go, I mean, I guess they kind of go hand in hand. And it's funny because Facebook owns Instagram. So I guess I can kind of see where this is coming from. They own Instagram, WhatsApp. They tried to acquire Snapchat for over $1 billion, I think it was, a few years back, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's kind of funny that they're just trying to keep up with that. You know, such a big brand like Facebook. I mean, you have to, at the same time, you got to commend them for at least trying to innovate. I'm sure some people are going to be all for this. Social media gurus, celebrities, they're going to be all on top of that. Anyone who's really trying to get that brand recognition or that name recognition out there. So, going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to see what kind of feedback that gets, because you got to assume if it gets bad publicity, they're going to try to really revamp it, maybe do a little extra work to it. And yeah, it's one of those things like the Facebook timeline. Do you remember? I know personally I hated it. I was used to the whole wall situation. I don't even know what it was called before the timeline, honestly. But I just remember being a little frustrated about it because, you know, people don't like change. Change is good to some people, change is bad to some people, quite frankly. You know, it doesn't agree with everybody. There's a bit of an adjustment period for a lot of people. I think that's a problem. Or I think that's what the thing is. People take a little bit of time to adjust, but once they come around and realize that perhaps it's more user-friendly and more comfortable, then you become accepting of it. This could be the same thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But also in NBA, congratulations to James Harden. Scoring over 2,000 points on the season and assisting on more than 2,000 points. Quite a historic feat for James Harden, who, as I mentioned last week on episode 39, Harden is really in a one-on-one race, arguably, with Russell Westbrook. It's going to be Russell Westbrook, James Harden, down to the MVP right now, according to many experts. LeBron could make that argument along with Steph Curry, but that's what a lot of the analysts are saying. So, congratulations to James Harden of the Houston Rockets on that one. But ladies and gentlemen, joining me now is a current host of SI Now for Sports Illustrated, aka SI.com. She also has her own podcast on the site titled The Gray Area, and is also, on her resume, she's also a co-host on CBS Sports Radio's Moose and Maggie show, which you can catch on Saturday mornings on CBS Sports Radio. She's also actually the very first person I met when I was lost on one Saturday when I started working at CBS Sports Radio. Fun fact for you guys. She is the one, the only Maggie Gray. Hey Maggie, good evening. How you doing?
Hey Nico, thanks so much for having me on your show. Remind me of what that was, because we start the show on Saturday morning so early in the morning that sometimes I'm not awake until I've had the full, large coffee has been intravenously put into my body somehow. So remind me of when we first met. You were lost?
Yeah, I mean, it was I want to say it was I started there I want to say mid-October of 2016, so 5 months ago. I Yeah, they told me I was supposed to start, and I didn't really know what the deal was, like who I was supposed to report to. So I ended up in the studio. I guess you guys were just wrapping up Moose and Maggie that day, so you were just like kind of like straggling there about to take off. So you kind of just directed me, and that's that's kind of when I met you. So it was like a 2 minute kind of convo there. So I just thought that was kind of funny the way that worked out. But
Yeah, that is like, but that's hilarious. I know exactly what you're talking about too. Because once we finish the show, I'm like logging out of all the 50 tabs that I have open.
yep.
That I've opened over the 4 hours, and trying to make sure I just like don't inadvertently leave my tweet back up, and so that Tiki and Tierney can come in and just like hack my account. So cool. I hope that you've enjoyed your time at CBS Sports Radio so far. How's it been going?
It's been going. It's been going really well, actually. I've been learning from a lot of people, and I've been, of course, meeting a lot of great people, which has been awesome. Like yourselves, who have are extremely qualified and really great people to learn from. So I'm actually curious, Maggie. How did your passion for just in general, your passion for sports, journalism, and pop culture, how did that kind of develop for you to what it's become today? How did that really come about?
Well, I think when it comes to sports, I mean, I think it's kind of like what everyone else, right? I mean, I grew up watching a lot of sports. I used to watch with my older brother. We watched a lot of basketball. My uncle was a season ticket holder for the Buffalo Bills. I'm from like the boondocks of upstate New York, so we got really close while watching Bills games, and I just love sports. So my parents always had this mantra, like, if you make your hobby your job, you'll never really feel like you're going to work. So I kind of took them up on that and sort of took them literally. And when I was in high school, in like a small town, we had a minor league hockey team, and I was like, this would be cool to like be close to the team or just, see what that's like. And they would only give internships to college kids, and I was in high school, so they're like, well, the radio broadcaster needs someone to like keep stats for him and maybe write like little press releases and just basically do whatever he needs. And that could be you for the home games. So I sat next to him for a season, and I thought what he did was so cool, and he let me come on the air with him the last game of the season, and I did like an out-of-town scoreboard or something. And I was like totally bitten by the bug, and I was like, wow, I could talk into a microphone for a living. This would be so dope. So I went to college like 2 months later and went directly to the radio station, got involved, and then started getting internships. And honestly, it started just kind of going from there. And gosh, it's been now like, geez, when did I graduate from college? Like 12 years ago. And I've been like supporting myself as a full-time broadcaster for the past 10 years.
Wow, that's pretty awesome, and the way that worked out, and just like that development, and obviously you've had the awesome privilege of really meeting with a bunch of stars and celebrities in like their respective fields. So I'm just wondering, what have been over these few years, what have been some of your favorite people to really sit down and chat with? Has there been a couple of people that have really stuck out to you in your mind that really have impacted you?
Yeah, it's funny where it's funny sometimes where you think the really meaningful conversations are going to come from, and then kind of where they do end up coming from. So I host SI now. We're almost to 1,000 episodes. So
wow.
We basically do a daily talk show on SI.com every day. I know, wow, right? That's wild. But sometimes I say that like makes it like trigger some kind of like almost like vomit reflex, because you just like realize just how much time and energy you put into this thing. And it's a little before its time because it's an all digital show, which is like all the rage now. But when we started in 2013, it like the world wasn't really where we are right now in terms of digital video. So it's evolved quite a bit. It's kind of gone through a lot of iterations and a lot of different motivations. But the one thing that's always sort of stayed steadfast is I get to interview some really unbelievable people. I mean, really, like I'm so blessed. Like Hall of Famers and current stars, coaches and actors and comedians. I mean, it's really been a poo-poo platter of awesomeness that's happened on the show. And there are some people who have surprised me, like people who just didn't have really a reputation of sort of going deep and kind of bearing a little bit of their soul. Like the fact that I've gotten things out of them has been really great. I feel like I've gotten to, and so like for example, someone who I just interviewed today was Bernie Williams from the New York Yankees. And I've interviewed him before, and honestly, it didn't really go that well. I feel like I didn't really get to know him. I didn't feel like I really gave our audience something they didn't know. And then today we started talking about his father, who passed away in 2001, and it just sort of got to a different kind of level. And then we put a guitar in his hand because he's a, professional musician now. He's been nominated for a Latin Grammy. And that just put him at such ease that I felt like we sort of got to talk. He had the guitar, and we just got to see a different side of Bernie Williams. That just happened to be today's show, for example. But then you get to, sort of other people, gosh, it's hard for me to think of all the people throughout the years. There's been so many, but, everyone I just talked to Carmelo Anthony recently for a video that's going to be coming out soon. I don't know, I just picked 2 New York athletes, but I got to talk to Carmelo Anthony, and, instead of just asking him sort of those same questions that he's going to get after every Knicks game, or, about Phil or the Triangle or getting traded or, winning or Porzingis or all these things that he's getting asked about all the time, we just asked about his relationship with New York City and what is it, and to describe what it's like when he encounters people on the street, and where does he go, like other places besides the Garden, besides the practice facility, like where does he like to be, and just sort of what his relationship is like with Rucker Park and West 4th Street Cajuns, and he was just so forthcoming about that. I think you get the sense sometimes these guys just get asked the same questions over and over again. And when you can give us something a little bit different, like we interviewed Steph Curry recently, and we decided, because we were doing it through a satellite media tour, it's called the SMT. People are familiar with them. It's like when you see a guy sitting in front of like a set or in front of a basketball court.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anchors, like in a different studio.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided we were not going to ask them any basketball questions. It was a big risk. We decided to do this thing called Anything But Basketball. And so we just asked them a bunch of other things, and it got some really interesting responses. Like, he uses a fake name when he checks into hotel rooms. It's a character from Entourage. He wouldn't tell us what that character was. We found out the last time he punched somebody was in high school, but they really deserved it because it was a retaliation. We found out, that he's never worn a disguise. Like, we had to find out when is the last time he pulled the Steph Curry card. Like, on Steph Curry, he said it was at a restaurant in New York City because he wanted to get in so bad. Like, we got to find out some things about him that we may not have. And, we feel confident that, Sports Illustrated or myself, that, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to Steph Curry again. Maybe next time we can talk about basketball, but for now we're going to try something a little bit different, make it a little bit unique.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a good point because, like you said, these athletes and celebrities get asked the same things constantly, and when you're able to really touch upon another subject, I think it really opens them up even more, and kind of gets them a little more comfortable, which is good. And I saw that I saw a clip that you posted today with Bernie Williams. Actually, I never actually really heard him play the guitar all that much. I knew he was talented, but I never really saw what he could do. And when he was doing those different melodies to the different pitchers that he's faced in the MLB, I thought that was a really cool idea by you guys to do that. That really spiced things up.
Yeah, it helps too because, like we said, Bernie Williams is a guy who plays baseball and also plays guitar. So these are two ways that you really express yourself. Like as an athlete, you express yourself with your body and with your ability. And as a musician, you express yourself through your instrument and with your music. So we're like, well, let's try to combine the two, and how could we do that? And one of our guys, one of our producers on SNL was like, I wonder what it sounds like to face Pedro Martinez. And it's like, that's a great idea. And so then we have to go about pitching it to Bernie because he can definitely say no. Like he has his right. We pitch ideas to celebrities and to athletes all the time, and they turn us down flat. Like it's crazy. The things that we come up with, and then they just say, I'd rather not. I'd rather just do the straight interview. So a lot of things kind of get left on the cutting room floor. But Bernie was really cool that he left there. He was floating. We felt like we may even have another idea where maybe Bernie would give us a musical interpretation of Game 7 of the World Series from last year, with the Indians and the Cubs.
Oh man!
Because the highs and the lows of that game were just so incredible. I wonder if Bernie would do that because not to get too inside baseball here, but Sports Illustrated and SI.com, we don't really have we don't have highlights. We don't have rights. We're not in bed with any of the leagues, which in one way is great because we can criticize the leagues. We never feel like we have to, we're not compromising any of our business. If we are critical of any of the leagues, we can criticize Roger Goodell, we can criticize Adam Silver, anything we want to do,
Right.
it's fair game as long as it's journalistically, is fine and all wrapped up. But we also don't have highlights. So we're constantly trying to tell sports stories and do interesting things where we, quite frankly, can't show you the play from last night. If there's a controversial call in an NFL game, like, we can't keep showing you that on replay. Like, we can't show you the Hail Mary. So we are constantly trying to be creative and come up with different ways to storytell, to cover the news, to cover the day's events without highlights.
Yeah, that's true, especially in 2017 with all this technology and all the fact that social media plays such a large role in society. You got to constantly be finding new ways to be innovative. So I could see where you guys are coming from in that sense. So that's obviously very important.
It's an interesting challenge, and that's where really like having young people on your staff is like it's crucial. Like you have to, people like you who are just starting out in the business, or just like kind of getting rolling with their career. Like it's imperative because first of all, we're hoping that you're the sort of person who would be consuming our content, and secondly, like it's just keeping up on the new technology to make sure that we're keeping pace so that we can continue to like be relevant in the conversation. There's like a lot of noise out there, so it's hard to break through sometimes.
No, absolutely. And out of curiosity, Maggie, I mean, who's been over the years, and just like as you have risen through your career, who's been your main inspiration? Who have you really gotten your source of inspiration from to really get to this point? Has there been anybody that's stuck out in your mind in particular?
Well, I don't know about like for inspiration in terms of like to continue broadcasting, or people who I like to emulate or who I find really good. Like in terms of like my inspiration, it's like to keep working. I love doing this for a living. I feel really lucky to do it for a living. I feel like I've got, really good at it or better. I've grown over my career, getting better all the time, hopefully. But the inspiration is, you want to keep working and you want to keep doing it because it's so much fun and it's really gratifying when you do a great interview where you feel like you put on a good show. But like the people who who were inspirational, I guess, to me when I was coming up, and people who I still look up to, are the really great interviewers in sports. People who I think are just really at the top of their game. Like, I'll put on, like, by Mount Rushmore, it's like, I think Dan Patrick is one of the great interviewers that we have in sports broadcasting. I think Jim Rome is a phenomenal interviewer. I think it's like, I really love Dan Levitar's show right now on radio. I feel like he's doing something that, like, not a lot of people are doing, where it's just completely irreverent, and, they're just not taking themselves seriously at all, yet making some really great points along the way. And I guess, like, you got to put, like, the OG, like, the Howard Stern or whatever, is probably also on the Mount Rushmore just because they created this whole new genre of interviewing. So, for me, it's the great interviewers. Like, those are the people who I'm trying to learn from, and those are the people who I feel like I would love to be in that company someday. I'm not there yet, but I hope someday to kind of, people look and say, wow, like Maggie Gray did a really great interview with so-and-so. I learned things that I never thought I would. And then what's kind of cool about where I am right now, at least for me, is I also get to do Moose and Maggie show on the radio. So it's like I host all week long for Sports Illustrated. And then it's like Saturday, it's like someone just releases this pressure valve, and it's like, all right, now what do you think? And then I get to give my opinion about everything that I've sort of been taking in and interviewing people about all week and reading about. I form my own opinion. I'm like, here's what I think about it. So it's like working two different sides of your brain in terms of like broadcasting, and I couldn't be happier for it. It's like it provides a really good balance for me to be able to host an interview on one side and then give opinion on another.
And that's a really interesting point, because I bet by the time Saturday rolls around with those, with all those interviews that you're conducting, I bet it kind of starts to bottle up inside, like you're just waiting to release. So I bet it's like a really good feeling when that rolls around, because you probably have so many ideas that you want to get out, and you got to hold it in, and that's definitely like the worst feeling ever for someone to really have to go through that.
Yeah,
So.
SI has been a lot cooler lately. They kind of want me to find my voice a little bit, and so then I get to go argue about it with Boots on Saturday morning, which is a lot of fun. But I've gotten a lot of professional advice like through my career, and one of the pieces of advice that I got kind of recently was like, hey, you have to pick a thing, and that's really difficult, and it's something I'm sort of ignoring it. I think because jobs right now, and hopefully they'll continue. I'm going to knock on wood right now. But there are people in the business who have said, you have to pick one thing and stick with it. Like, are you going to be a host? Are you going to be an opinion person? What do you want to do? And it's, quite frankly, it's, caused a little bit of identity crisis for me. Because I'm like, gosh, I like them both so much equally. I don't want to have to give one up. So, it's kind of like an interesting crossroads, I think, in maybe a small microcosm of, like, where the sports broadcasting industry is right now. Because, we're like a hot take nation, and that can be really lucrative. It can be that can be very fulfilling. It's fun to give your opinion. It obviously gets people riled up. It gets people talking, like Skip Baylesses and the Clay Travises and all these people, who are really like these provocateurs, and that's really fun. But on the other hand, like, is that what you want to spend all your time doing? Because don't you look at an interview that Stephen A. Smith does with LeVar Ball? You may look at that differently.
Oh my gosh.
If like Bob Costas sits down with LeVar Ball. So it's just very different, and it's one thing that I'm kind of wrestling with myself as I'm like, 12 years into broadcasting.
Yeah, that's a good, that is definitely a interesting dilemma, but I think at the same time, it kind of adds, I think it makes you definitely much more well-rounded as a professional too, because it kind of just shows the two sides that you're capable of, putting on at different times. So I think it's definitely a better selling point for you in terms of, marketing yourself as a professional. So I think that's definitely a positive that comes out of that. No doubt about that.
Nico, I appreciate it. I would love it. Do you want to be my agent? Like, totally. I would absolutely love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll see. It's kind of interesting for people like to figure out sort of where broadcasting is going. I think that like people don't really understand or really have a real grasp on sort of what the next step is. Like, I'm trying to think about this in like the long spectrum, right? Like the whole life spectrum of broadcasting. Like, what's digital going to be? Like, is it going to be equivalent to like the CD, which was like awesome when it first came out, and like it ultimately proved to be totally irrelevant because of like streaming and downloading and stuff, and it didn't really have a big time because, the one thing I always try to ask myself is, when I'm doing something, whether it's for Sports Illustrated, and even Boost and Maggie, I guess, to a certain degree, but it's like, where is the audience going to even consume this? It's like, they're probably consuming it where, on their phone, I would assume? Like, I don't know how many people are watching digital video on their desktop or laptop. So it's like, all right, the person's going to be consuming it on their phone. Well, how much longer is that going to be? Not to, like, sound totally crazy sci-fi weirdo, but, like, are we probably going to be wearing, like, some type of Google glasses at some point soon? Like, I know they look kind of corny and weird, but, like, isn't that probably coming in the next 10 to 15 years? So, like, trying to take the long view of sort of where the industry is going, it's a little hard to take the temperature now. And, if you're someone like me and someone I really hope, I can't tell the future, but I hope I'm in this for a long time. I hope I'm kind of in this for the long haul. I would love to have one of those careers, where people look back and say, wow, can you believe you did this for 20 years, That would be really, really amazing and something that I'm really striving for. So I feel like I have to sort of think about sort of what people want and how they're going to be consuming it and try to be, like, a little bit on the forefront of that. Not that I'm going to go, like, create Google Glasses or what have you, or, like, recreate them or a 2.0 version, but just trying to be cognizant of all of that because it's definitely happening where Facebook and Amazon and Google and YouTube, like they are getting into the sports world. Facebook, if I didn't mention that, like they're here. Twitter's here. Like it's happening, and they're all the companies that have money. So it's like trying to figure out sort of where the industry growing is at one point sort of scary, but another point like kind of really interesting and quite frankly opens up a lot of doors for people. Hopefully, so. It's an interesting time to be in broadcasting now, that's for sure.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting is a really good way to describe it. Definitely, yeah, interesting and exciting. It's gonna be fun to see what happens in these next few years. But before I let you go, Maggie, I'm just I noticed one of your pictures when I was making a mini collage to prep for the show. One of the pictures of you is I think it's on the set of SI now. You're like holding you're holding a little puppy. You're holding a dog there. What's the story behind that? Is that yours, or is that one of your coworkers? What's the story behind that little guy?
No, that was... Oh my gosh, Nico, I'm so glad you asked this question. It's an amazing question. That was the winner of the... Gosh, that might have been 2016 or 2015. The winner of the Westminster Dog Show. That was Miss P, like the Beagle.
Oh, wow.
Dog Show, and that came to Sports Illustrated the the dog, and I'm like, the handler was like, sorry, like, she really can't eat that stuff. Like, this is so beneath her. Like, she eats like filet mignon. I swear to you, it was wild. The dog just couldn't have been cuter and sweeter. And so, no, unfortunately, that is not my dog. I don't have a dog. My family has one, but I don't actually have one. And we couldn't keep her. We had to let her go, which was just so. We wanted her to be our official like SI now mascot, but.
Oh no, yeah, I'm sure that must have been so hard for you to let go. You must have. I'm sure you were really connected, and yeah, that must have been tough. You got like a whole like half hour to hang out, and then you gotta like say goodbye. That's the worst.
It was so bad, and like obviously this goes without saying, like the dog is incredibly well behaved. You know, it's like more well behaved than like some guests that we've had by now. Like we've had people show up like drunk and stoned, and like you know, we've had people show up in like all different states. You know, like states of being. And Miss P, the Westminster dog show winner, was like our most polite probably guest that we've ever had.
Wow, who would have thought? Who would have thought? But Maggie, thank you so much for taking the time to join me tonight. I really appreciate it. You added plenty of interesting insight, and I really appreciate you telling your story and everything. Very fascinating. So thanks for taking the time to come on tonight.
Oh, Nico, it's absolutely my pleasure. Am I going to see you Saturday morning bright and early or no?
Yes, I'm working. Yeah, I'm working the early morning shift, so I will see you. It's going to be great.
Fantastic. I'll bring the coffee. I'll see you then.
All right, sounds great. All right, Maggie, have a good night.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Right. Maggie Gray, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to her for coming on the program on episode 40 of the Nico Chronicles. She's so nice. She really is. And like I said, if you guys didn't catch that, she is the very first person I met at CBS Sports Radio, or first day on the job, I should say. It was a Saturday morning. I was going in for training, and yeah, she was packing up, and she kind of directed me somewhat because I didn't know where the heck I was going. And yeah, I reached out, and she's always willing to lend a helping hand, and she has a very fascinating story, and she really gives good advice too. You have to really find your niche in this business, quite honestly, and you got to stick to it. You got to know what you want. And like I was telling her, though, I think you can, in one sense, you can have your cake and eat it too, in the sense of the career you want to pursue. Because yes, she is a host or an interviewer, as you could say, on one end with SI Now, and then on Moose and Maggie, she can kind of really like be specific and let all emotion out and kind of just, speak your mind. I think you can do both. I mean, I just think it makes you more well-rounded as a person. It's like if you relate it to a resume, for example. Let's be real, employers like to see that you're multifaceted. And so, it's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to see what happens there. And I'm sorry if I froze there for a second. I was actually getting a call on my mobile device, which is weird. Apparently, I don't know if that stuff's the Facebook live stream. But anyway, thanks to Maggie for coming on. And like I said, for those of you NCAA basketball fans interested, South Carolina going to be taking on Gonzaga this Saturday, April 1st. Opening tip is super precise here, approximately 6:09. So if it's 6:10, people are going to get upset. It's going to be followed that same evening, April 1st, by Oregon versus UNC. Tar Heels, according to Vegas, have the largest odds of winning the tournament. Obviously, that means nothing, but for those of you looking to bet, that'll be tipping off at 8:49. So both games taking place in Phoenix. But I hope you guys enjoyed episode 40 as much as I did. It was a fun time. On this special night as well. Special night, special time, special everything, special 40. We will be back. Who knows what day we'll be back next week, quite honestly, for episode 41. It could be Wednesday, could be Thursday, could be Tuesday. Nonetheless, don't worry. Keep following me on social media, facebook.com/The Nico Chronicles. Again, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your Wednesday morning to be here with me tonight. I really appreciate it. And until episode 41, guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Enjoy your weekends, and take care.